And we're back here on the Fowler Show. We're here with my friend, you guys know her, Maya Rockeymoore from Global Policy Solutions. Welcome to the show.
It's my pleasure to be here.
I know, Maya, it's been so long. I'm almost like last convention since you've been on our show last.
It has been that long.
Terrifying.
Too long.
Way too long. Some of my favorite people in the world. So you know, I was saying to folks, and folks who don't know, her spouse is Elijah Cummings, and so you know, I was like, oh yeah, you know. And everybody's like, everybody's asking, like, who do you want to be vice president? I'm like, Elijah? I mean, he'd be a perfect vice president. He's like, awesome. But beyond that, this is day 3 for folks. So the show is a week in review of the convention. So this is day 3. What are you feeling right now?
I am feeling good. Last night I actually got emotional twice, and that's hard for me. The fact of the matter is that this is history,
right,
and we're making history. And President Clinton did a fabulous job of humanizing his spouse, and
let's talk about that. That's an interesting word choice. Humanizing.
Yeah, he captured it when he said that she's become a caricature. And really, I mean, they have been going after her for so long that, we see her as this demon because that's the way she's portrayed by the other side. And the fact of the matter is he brought humanity back to her, that she's a mother, a loving mother, a woman whose heart is so big that she cares for so many other people. She has so many talents, and that she's a change maker. And he grounded it in their relationship, which many people find enigmatic. But the fact of the matter is that he explained that she's a woman who finishes what she starts, and when she makes a promise, it's for keeps. And so for the American people, I mean, he's saying we're getting a good deal. I feel like we're getting a good deal, and I feel like everybody in this stadium, maybe except for a few Bernie bots.
Bernie bots. So they caused some ruckus yesterday after the official nomination of Hillary Clinton. They walked out of the arena and took over the media tent in what was rather a media spectacle. Then they took to the streets and there was some protesting. Do you think this party can come together?
Yeah, it's already come together. But first of all, let me say this. There is a role for protest in our democracy, and it is absolutely legitimate. And so they were chanting, this is what democracy looks like. This is absolutely what democracy looks like. So, I mean, I might have disparaged them by saying Bernie bot, but the fact of the matter is that it's important. It's important to push the envelope. It's important to have your voice heard. They have been engaging. I'd rather them here than sitting at home in an armchair and not doing anything.
So let's talk about that, but to some extent, they have really, really, really moved this party to the left.
Absolutely. Now the question is, what's going to happen in governing? So
let's unpack that, right? I would like the princess of policy wonks. Like, you're a policy girl.
Yeah.
You live and breathe policy.
But I'm a political scientist by training.
Fair, right? How do you govern? Everybody knows a lot of times that the party platforms are just that. Like, we have this big brouhaha about them, and then in November you elect the president, the party platform goes out the window, and back to business as usual. Is it possible to govern with this party platform?
Absolutely. It's all about strategy. And the fact of the matter is, I don't know if you remember during the Obamacare debates that people were upset with President Obama by starting the position of negotiation in the center. Because once you start the position of negotiation in the center, you know that you have to compromise. That means that whatever you end up with is going to be center right if you're allowing the other party to have their say, which is what the democratic process is. And so the fact of the matter is that, when you have a strong left flank and you know your strategy and you're using that strategy, when you go into policy debates like Obamacare and others, you start with a position of strength from where your party base is on the left, and whatever you negotiate has more of a chance of being center left instead of center right. And so
let's put that into play, because you're the people that you can do this with. So let's put that into play with in the party platform. The party has called for free public university.
Yeah.
How do you policify that, if that's even a word?
How do you policify that? I mean, waiving in-state tuition for students is a way to do it. The question is, how do you pay for it? You pay for it by raising taxes in some cases, or finding efficiencies in your educational system. You also, I think there are a number of ways that you can actually approach it. And so, the whole notion of debt-free education doesn't necessarily mean free education. You notice people are using the two terms
synonymously.
Yeah, debt-free education means that you can have an affordable education. When I went into undergrad, every semester was $2,500.
No, I can't tell you. I won't tell you how much I paid. A lot more, Maya.
I went through undergrad, graduates. I got a PhD for heaven's sake, and I had no student debt when I came out of school.
I can't say that either.
My sister, on the other hand, I mean, she went to the same undergrad I did, so the $2,500 was her situation. But then she went on to get a medical degree from Johns Hopkins University. She has six-figure debt.
Yeah.
And fortunately, she was able to get into a high-paying position after but many people don't. They go to these fancy colleges and they are English majors, and then, they go out and they join Teach for America.
And they make no money.
And they can't pay off their debt.
So let's talk about the policy of it. So we're talking about a raise, like where do you raise? Are we raising a payroll tax? Are we going to be raising some sort of offset tax? Is it like a 1% tax on investments? I mean, what is it?
So first of all, recall that we're talking about state education, so state schools, right?
Yeah. So the federal government's going to float the money.
The federal government can float the money. So there are any kinds of various resources. Taxing the internet, whatever. You've got various taxing authorities and places to get the money from. You can even reconfigure your budget if your priority is education,
like
higher
taking a little bit of money from the Pentagon just to
a little money from the Pentagon will do it. I mean, or just a little. It's heresy for me to say this. I'm going to say it. The other guy on the Republican side has been saying we need to stop giving money away to so many nations around the world. But if you just take a sliver of that budget, not cutting people off, but just skimming from the top, I mean, the money's there. I mean, that'll pay for it. I mean, there are any number of ways to get the money. We're not a poor country.
No, and I think that's part of the problem, Maya. I think Republicans have made it a zero-sum game. It's like there's one pie, and the pie is pretty much all sliced up, and so you have all the poor people, and they're fighting over one sliver, and the Republicans want to make that sliver as small as possible to starve them out. And I don't think it's that way at all. It's about rejiggering.
Or a financial transaction tax. I mean, who took our economy over the cliff? They use the Federal Reserve and all preferential monetary rates and everything else. Financial transaction tax for these big firms is another way to do it.
I mean, it's even as simple as I forgot the name of the plane now. There was a plane that was built, oh goodness, and it's escaping me. But there's one plane the military does not want. They're like, we don't want this plane.
F-58 or
it's like an F-58 bomber. We don't want it. But this one congressman who sits on defense appropriations is like, well, this is in my district, and you must have it. I will give you this plane. And so the plane just sit on an open tarmac.
So let me tell you, the biggest travesty that we have, well, one of the biggest travesties is the federal contracting process. Many of these large contractors become so entrenched that they actually outlast the civil servants that are supposed to be overseeing them. They know more than the civil servants, and they actually bid these contracts in a way and secure them in a way that ensures that they are able to do cost overruns without any kind of controls.
Well, that speaks to, and we're running out of time, but I want to talk about one other thing, because I think that speaks to another thing that people don't know about. I know we're talking the Democratic Convention, but Maya Rockeymoore knows everything. One thing that the people at home don't know about is how regulation is written in this country. So there's these people, there's the commissions that they ask for the public to come in so they could do these regulations. And a friend of mine was like, listen, he works for the Department of Education. He's like, most of the people they bring in to do regs all work for Navient.
That is a shame. And actually that happens on the legislative side too. I mean, I saw it when I worked on the House Ways and Means Committee. Republicans were in charge, but I've seen entire bills written by corporate America. And the fact of the matter is that is unacceptable in a democracy where you have the special interests actually drafting the legislative language. And then once you get to the reg side, they've already gamed it on the ledge side.
So the regs are just made for them to procure the contract.
Absolutely. But then, the regs are then open to the public for comment. And then nobody comments because, it's really a specialty game on most of this stuff.
Right.
Nobody's paying attention to every single regulation that comes out. The exceptions are like things like the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Whenever they have a whole advocacy group that is centered around making sure that entity survives. And so whenever they have a reg coming out, they whip all the advocates together and say, comment, 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 get the public to comment, etc. And there are other areas that are like that, but there are others that are just completely overlooked, and that is not democracy. That is co-opted government.
Co-opted government. We heard it from Maya Rockeymoore. I told you guys would love her on the show. I love having these in-depth, moderately policy wonkified conversations, which I just made that word up too. But we love having her on the show. We've got to pay some bills. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.